All right, welcome to Halitics. I'm Hal Ginsberg. So glad to talk today. It is Tuesday. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's program with Arlen, and if you didn't see it, please check it out. I thought it was a really good one, and we had a real nice wide-ranging discussion on kind of the usual topics of the day, of the week, of the year. Sadly, endless war, genocide, really can't get away from them, and our college campuses are now roiling with protests against the indiscriminate, senseless killing of Gazans and those who actually apparently, I won't say they support it, but certainly don't like any criticism whatsoever of Israel. We'll touch on that today. We'll probably do more than that, as well as hit on the climate holocaust, the situation in Ukraine, which is, as I describe it in the little, synopsis of this program, grim. So we'll get into all of that, and also whether you should, in fact, vote Democratic, or maybe you shouldn't vote Democratic. We'll get to that as well. I do want to hear from you. Gosh, it's been a long time since anybody called in. I don't count Arlen as calling in because, of course, he's on as a regular guest host, or co-host, I should say. I want to talk to you. These topics are controversial. These topics raise your ire, I'm sure. And the way I cover them may be what raises your ire. So I definitely do want to discuss this with you. Certainly get into it with folks online and at Halitics, the Facebook group that we've put together. But I'd like to do that on the air as well. I think it's really worth it. I think it's disappointing. Well, let me say it this way. It disappoints me that we're not having these conversations on air, because I think we need to, as they're doing at Wesleyan University, my alma mater, hashing this stuff out. I think that's something we really should be doing. And when I say hashing out, I mean calling people on the phone and yelling at them and cursing them out, and then, unfriending them or blocking them. That's not having a mutually rewarding, respectful dialogue. Now, it may not be possible in all cases. It really may not be, because these issues are so serious and, so meaningful to people that they may not be able to have. I don't know, could you have a conversation with a Nazi, a pro-Holocaust Nazi? I think that'd be pretty hard. And that's kind of where I am with those who say, oh no, every single Gazan, every single Palestinian is responsible. There are no innocents. I can't, that's a view that I find really not worthy of consideration. I think there are some views that, in fact, an evil view, one that is, causing harm, much like those who are still in denial with respect to the climate holocaust. I think there's a difference there. At least the deniers, well, they're supporting policies that are killing our planet. So maybe there isn't much of a moral distinction. Hey, if you want to join me, let me know. Do you think there's a real moral distinction between those who support the Israeli genocide in Gaza or are in denial of it, support ongoing, continuing aid for Israel? Is there a difference between those folks and those who refuse to acknowledge that human activity, specifically burning fossil fuels, is burning up our planet? Do you see a difference between the two? Because I, frankly, am having trouble maybe making a moral distinction. But I'm sure there is one to be made, and it's my sense is it's worse to support what Israel is doing than denying the climate holocaust. My sense is it's worse to be pro-Israel in this situation, but I could be proven wrong, and I can't justify it right now. So if you have a different view, 240-283-7262. I keep clicking that button. I wonder if it's messing something up over here. I probably should stop doing that, where you're seeing the page kind of refresh, but maybe you're not seeing it. Maybe I only see that and you don't, which I hope is the case. All right, let's go to Dr. Jill Stein. And Dr. Jill Stein, I think I posted this on Facebook, really has earned my vote. And I probably will write, I 99% likely to write her in when it comes to the Maryland presidential primary in just a couple of weeks. My inclination, is it exactly 2 weeks, I believe? My inclination is to write her in rather than vote uncommitted, because voting uncommitted suggests I am going to vote for a Democrat, that I'm a loyal Democrat, I'm part of the Democratic Party. That's not where I am right now. So to me, it's not just I don't like the Democrat who's running for president this year, or I don't like the two, right? I guess Marianne Williamson may still be on the ballot. It's not just that I don't like Biden and I don't like Williamson, although I don't. It's that there's no one in the Democratic Party today that excites me in any real way. Even if you included Bernie as a Democrat, and he's not, he's an independent, but even if you did, no, he has not stood up to the Democratic Party. He has not stood against them. He has not stood with victims of wealth and power. He just hasn't done it. So I can't be on his side at this point. I am on the side of Jill Stein. Here's her post from Washington University in St. Louis. She stood with protesters there, and she was arrested. And we'll see a video of that arrest, not of Stein, but of another woman who I have been in contact with. Her name is Kelly. I don't think I'm giving anything away. I hope she's not upset my saying her name. We'll see the video of her getting arrested. It was sent to me. It's very violent. It's very ugly. It's very wrong. And so, by the way, is the response of Washington University in St. Louis. Here, Stein notes, we were violently assaulted and arrested with 100 others peacefully protesting at Washington University. And then she adds, many U.S. police departments are being trained by Israel to use military occupation-style tactics against their own communities. That is something I'm absolutely confident is true. I could not verify that. I would like to verify that with a story. In other words, that Israel is training police in rousting out protests, right? And aggressively going after protesters. That's what Stein says. I believe it. I'm going to look into it now. I've been burned before when I believe people when they've said things that seem right to me, but I'd be very surprised if Stein would say that unless, she had the goods. So let's go to WashU, and we're going to show this video. Let me see if I can get it up for you. And always a little bit of a struggle getting everything just right, but I think we'll be able to. Got a few little rotations I got to do. My video software always playing games with me, which is extremely frustrating. But as I'm doing this, the correct video is in fact emerging from the darkness of the layer system here at my OBS studio. So here, this is from Instagram. This was shared with me by, again, Kelly. I want to make sure I can get you the entire posting from Instagram. It's a little bit frustrating because they've got that logo of WashU right where she is being held down, right over her by the police. But you can see that it's an aggressive, very aggressive treatment, abusive, I would say, treatment by the police. So let's play that video real quick for you, and you can see it. Here we go. All right, so they restarted it there. I'm going to play it one more time because a little bit of that was covered by my logo. So I want you to see it one more time. It's just really scary. You see the police just throwing her hard to the ground. This is an older, very small woman with a beefy cop just manhandling her. And I thought that was a really good comments in there. Why are police here and not fighting real crime? St. Louis obviously is a city with a serious problem with crime, and this is what the St. Louis police are doing. And then I agree with that. Another example of the fascist police state protecting property over people. And I don't even know what property they're protecting. There's no damage to property by these protesters. It's just that the Washington University administrators, for whatever reason, probably hearing a lot from their alums, are being told, crack down hard, knock some skulls. And they're doing what they're told. The police are following direction. It's really scary. Those of you who say, well, we've got to stop Trump because otherwise we'll become fascist. No, we're already fascist. That's fascism. You just saw an image, a video of real fascism. Police doing serious harm, serious injury to non-violent protesters against genocide. It's really important, by the way. I think it's very critical to look at the causes, right? We're not talking about people who are promoting some white supremacist view of America like we saw at Charlottesville, Virginia. This is a pro-peace, pro-justice, pro-humanity protest. And that's what the police are going in at the behest, by the way, of a very prestigious, extremely prestigious university known as, I think, liberal. Although that said, I believe, and I could be wrong, is that one of the world's worst people, one of Hillary Clinton's closest allies and aides, I think it's Neera Tanden, attended that school. So let me just check on that because I want to confirm. It could have also been Huma Abedin. So I'm not clear, but I want to just show you a little bit of how this really ugly response, the really ugly response of Washington University to the protesters and their support for violence over freedom of expression. When I see that, what I'm thinking is, if you're a WashU grad, I wouldn't give them a penny. I'm actually thinking of giving some money to Wesleyan University. I promoted how they handled the protests very, very differently. We're going to let the folks stay there. We're not going to roust them out. And in fact, we hope to learn from them. So here is the statement, which I'm not actually getting, of course. We'll show it to you in a second. Here we go. It should pop up now. No, there we go. Woohoo, got it. Look at that. Ooh, I got it. I was pretty scared I wouldn't be able to. So you can see, and we're going to go through it real quick. I think it's small, but it should be just large enough for you to read. So what their concern is, the concern of the university is there were some police officers who were apparently injured. Now, the police voluntarily, well, they were requested to, but they did. They didn't have to. The police have discretion. The police voluntarily, very, very aggressively attacked peaceful protesters. And that is reason at Washington University to view it as a dark day, right? If you're a university grad, if you're a university student, your administrator called the police in to bust up a pro-peace, pro-people, anti-genocide demonstration. That is about as dark a day as you can imagine at a school. And rather than take that on, the administration says a large group of individuals came to campus intending to disrupt, do harm, and interfere with educational activities in campus lives. So yes, that was the police. They came at the behest of the administration. When the group began to set up an encampment, well, they're protesting evil, it is true, which is in clear violation of our explicitly stated policies. By the way, these are students, some of whom are paying $80,000 a year. That is what pays the salary of the president. And those who aren't paying that money are many of them going into tremendous debt or having to work, and study, making it very, very difficult for them. Much harder than for students who, like me, were able to have or had families that were able to pay the full tuition. So it's much harder to do work study. They're part of the GW community. Now, I know the professor or the president is saying, no, it was outside agitators. And I guess you could say that, yeah, it was Jill Stein, outside presidential candidate. Of course, you might say you're honored by her presence. And certainly there were many Washington University students there as well. So the problem, as the president of Washington University sees it, is there was physical resistance. Actually, they were nonviolent. I didn't see any resistance in the video of the woman being thrown around by police. And the only concern expressed by the president is that there were police officers injured. That's amazing. That's their only concern, right? It's not our students. It's not nonviolent protesters. A middle-aged woman. Jill Stein's 73 years old. She describes it as a violent arrest. I think what we saw in that image is clear. That's exactly what happened. She was violently arrested. And the only thing that the president of the university can express is concern for the police officers who committed the violence. That's fascism. That's an institution that is on the side of the authorities against the people, against democracy, against freedom of speech, against freedom of assembly, against the right to protest injustice. I hope you'll vote for Jill Stein for president. And I hope you'll write her name in the Democratic primary, because you'll be sending a message. Sure, it will fall on completely deaf ears, or it will be used or they will attempt to use it against us, against the progressive movement. But there has to be an understanding at some point, or things will never change. There has to be an understanding among those in power, those in authority, that if they continue to act as they are, then they will lose. They will be out of power. I know no other way. They have to be threatened with the loss of their jobs, with the loss of their careers. So Jill Stein's the only one who's saying that. Jill Stein put her body on the line. She got arrested aggressively, violently. You need to support her. Don't want to be only negative. This is a right and wrong show, so we show the right, we show the wrong. We just showed the wrong, how wrong it was. In D.C., very, very different response by the police. Like in St. Louis, the police were called in to aggressively rout out protesters who have a message that the administration at George Washington University doesn't like. And guess what the DC police did? They said, sorry, not going to do it. We're not seeing any violence. We're not seeing anybody harmed. We don't even know there's a crime being committed. So, nope. we say no. And George Washington University ain't happy about it. And they got Tom Cotton complaining. But the police, and they are real upfront. The city said, Mayor Bowser said, and she's kind of a neo-lib. She's definitely pro big law firm, pro corporate, DC. Believe she kind of opened the doors for, rolled out the red carpet for Walmart, for example. But here, and she said, hey, I don't like the optics. I don't want my police force going onto a college campus and arresting a bunch of peaceful people, peaceful protesters. That's not going to look good. I don't like that. And, I'd rather her say it's not right. I'd rather her say it's wrong for the police to do that. But okay, that's fine. You don't like the optics? You shouldn't. They look really bad. It would be really, really bad if this happened. So I'm good with your not liking the optics. Please click like. Please click subscribe. And again, call 240-242-5646. So police spokesperson, or the deputy mayor for public safety and justice, who I think does make statements for the police and the mayor, noted, Lindsay Appiah, please continue to monitor and work with GW to make sure things remain safe on their campus. So that is the exact response that I like. That's their job. Protect and serve, right? And that's what they're doing in D.C. What a complete 190, 190 would be more than 100, but the opposite of what the violent, aggressive police at the behest of Washington University and St. Louis have been doing. So shout out, yes, to Mayor Bowser, to the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department and others who are saying, no, we're not going to act on behalf of the, elite university administration. We're going to try to keep everyone safe. And, so do we have fascism? We do in some places. I mean, like everything, there's a yin and a yang. There's still some places, I guess you are kind of free to express yourself. This isn't one of them. Yeah, let me play that one more time, folks. Here we go. And that is a place where Washington University, where the institution has completely gone over to the dark side, is on completely on off, completely with the police, and it's scary. It's scary. If you don't like that, don't vote for either party because they both support this. Things are not good in Gaza right now. I've said that I want to center the victims. So the real victims right now are certainly not those who feel afraid on college campuses. The real victims are people, yes, who were arrested, especially aggressively, violently, but even more so, the people being bombed, shot, killed in Gaza. They are the true victims. And we should always bear that in mind. Bibi has now said that he's likely to go into Rafah no matter what. There is no plan to, abide by some kind of proposed ceasefire. There was hopes for a 40-day ceasefire, during which time there could be hostages returned to Israel, maybe some exchanges, because Israel is holding plenty of hostages too. One of the things that's very frustrating when the you see like kosher stores and Jewish stores, and they have the pictures of all bring them home. And I understand that mentality. I do, and I'm sympathetic. But there are many, many, many Palestinians who were arrested for nonviolent offenses, who are being held by Israeli police, and they're being held as hostages. They're being held so that in cases like this, they can say to the Palestinians, okay, you've got our people, we've got some of yours, we'll swap them. And that's just terribly, terribly wrong. So today's news, we have like 35,000 dead now, probably at a minimum at Israel's hands. And now Bibi saying, yeah, we're going into Rafah, where there may be over 1 million refugees. We told you to go to Rafah, that's where you'd be safe. Now we're going to go in there. We're going to go house to house. That's why there are these protests on college campuses, because of that evil. There's simply no other way to look at it. There's simply no other way to describe it. Israel has become an evil state, an outlaw state, and there's nothing anti-Semitic about saying that. It's not as though Jews are either any better or worse morally. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And the powerful, wealthy state of Israel has just gone psychotic, has gone maniacal. All right, 240-242-5646. Things not just bad in Gaza, but the war in Ukraine, which is a real war, right? There's two different armies. There's Russia and there's Ukraine. That is not going well either. From Al Jazeera, and some people are like, oh, how can you ever quote Al Jazeera? They're not credible. Well, I've never found any stories. I've never read any, fact checks that have said, oh, no, they're wrong. Al Jazeera's got it wrong. They seem to get things right much more often than wrong. But I can't see why they would get this story wrong. And in any event, we'll go to a different news source as well. Ukraine towns fall to Russian latest defeat. Outmanned and outgunned, Kiev's forces struggle to advance against Moscow's troops as the war drags on. So it's dragging on. It's going to drag on more because of that bipartisan aid package that just passed both houses. Disaster. More endless war. Another reason, don't vote for either, for the candidates from either party in the primary coming up. Vote for Dr. Jill Stein. And we'll get to her position on this in a moment. But I showed you the caption from Al Jazeera. Here is what France 24 has to say. And remember, France 24, or at least France, has been kind of weird. Like they've been kind of split personality. Macron, the president, I guess he's the president. I always get this confused. Netanyahu is, in fact, the prime minister. He is the leader of Israel. He is a prime minister. I think Macron is the president, whereas in England, in the UK, the most important, most powerful person would be the prime minister. So France 24 is interesting because they've had some pro-neocon voices on that station where they've supported French military involvement in Ukraine, deploying French troops. And yet they acknowledge how badly things are going there.
So the situation then at the front has worsened. That is the admission from Ukraine's top commander, as he said, that Kyiv's outnumbered troops have fallen back to new positions west of 3 villages on the eastern front, where Russia has concentrated significant forces in several locations. The retreat there is Kyiv hopes it can stabilize its forces again while it takes delivery of US weapons under that $61 billion aid package approved in the US.
$61 billion, so it's aid. So there's two problems that Ukraine faces right now. One is they're outmanned, right? They just don't have enough troops. The aid package will do nothing to help that. I read another article, I don't think it was Al Jazeera, I'm not sure where, that they have this group they call the Steppe Wolves. These are 60 plus volunteers in the Ukrainian army. So there were kind of shades of the last days of Nazi Germany. And Ukraine had many supporters in World War II of the Nazis. And I don't bash him for that, because Stalin was a horrible, brutal dictator. So sometimes the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But Ukraine also has a long history of fascism and a long history of terrible anti-Semitism. So this is not some sort of wonderful paradise. I'm not going to say, look, you shouldn't have supported, at least in the early days, the Nazis against Stalin's communist army, Red Army, because the Red Army was brutal. I mean, these were brutal on both sides. So I get it. But, this is shades of the last days when Germany was falling and seniors had to fight, because the country was about to be overrun. And indeed, it was overrun. And the leadership knew just how badly they were going to be treated, especially by the Russians, because they had been so horrible, because of the atrocities that Germany was responsible for. So you're seeing now in Ukraine, you have these seniors who are out there toting weapons. And, what I can hear some of you saying, oh, well, if they want to, that's their choice. That's their choice. They shouldn't have that choice. You shouldn't have their choice at 60 years old to go out with a machine gun and try to kill people and probably more likely get your own self shot up. We have an obligation as outsiders to say, no, enough, basta, stop it. It's what it is two cavemen standing next to each other, bashing each other over the head. And when one of them is older and smaller and his club is getting all, broken up into little pieces, we give them a new club so they can keep bashing each other for a while longer. That's what's happening. What we should be doing is getting between them and saying, stop it, stop beating each other up. We're going to figure out another solution. But that's not what we're doing. That's not what either side, when I say either side, I mean, well, they're two sides of the same coin, the Democrats and the Republicans. Neither side is for peace. Both are for endless war.
Last week. Well, we're going to cross then live to Kyiv, talk to our correspondent who joins us from there, Gulliver Cragg. Gulliver, firstly then, give us the latest position that you're hearing on the ground, can you?
Well, Colonel General Alexander Syrski named 3 villages in Donetsk region that he said Ukrainian troops had withdrawn from, one of them southwest of Donetsk, 2 of them in the Avdiivka direction, beyond Avdiivka to the northwest of Donetsk city and Avdiivka. The Russians are saying that they've gone further than that.
Russia already took Avdiivka, now he's saying northwest. So they're pushing west, right? Because Russia's basically just east of Ukraine, but it kind of surrounds Ukraine. And now they're just cutting through that country. Our aid, quote, may slow them down. Maybe there'll be more stalemate, more deaths. But those dead Ukrainians ain't coming back. And their brothers and sisters are going to join them. And our government is full on for more killing in Ukraine.
And some independent observers are also assessing the amount of terrain that the Russians have gained in recent weeks as a bit bigger than what Syrski is admitting to. But he said that it's not only in Donetsk region that the Ukrainians are under pressure. Of course, there's also in Donetsk region, we shouldn't forget this key battle for the town of Chasiv Yar. Colonel Syrski didn't speak of any Ukrainian retreat in that area, but he said the fighting there was very intense. And then
all right, so it's just bad. I mean, the bottom line is just bad in Ukraine. And we're fighting a proxy war there. We're just fighting to the last Ukrainian. It's awful. I don't see any way to support. I don't see any way that we really can view either party as in any way morally just, morally right when this is what they're in favor of. And I'll just never forget that image of Jamie Raskin telling a crowd at an event sponsored by Lockheed Martin, military contractor, how evil Putin is and how we have to stand up to Putin. And what he's really saying is we have to just keep giving our tax money to Lockheed Martin. I can't vote for these people. They don't. At some point, when we vote for those who support endless war and genocide, we become guilty. So this legislation passed by a very significant margin. And let me see if I can get the right picture up for you. And it's terrible. It's a terrible bill. It's not just as bad as it is, what, $96 billion, most of it going to kill Gazans and promote more death and carnage in Europe, in Eastern Europe, which is what most of that bill is for. It even includes this absurd banning of TikTok in 6 months. Now, I actually would like to see TikTok become American owned. I really would. I don't love the Chinese having this popular platform and owning it in our country. I think there should be a TikTok America that's owned by the US. I get that. I feel like that's reasonable. But it's only being promoted because many are concerned that TikTok users, TikTok videoers, are taking issue with the Israel genocide, with Israel's genocide of Gaza. So it's really an anti-free speech measure as well. And of the 50, right, 49 Democrats, 50 Democrats, 49, 48, whatever it is, because you've got Bernie, you've got some guy in Maine, Angus Young, I think. Angus King. Of those 48 Democrats, all but 2 supported the bill. You can't say they're somehow morally superior. 15 Republicans voted against this horrible bill, and 3 didn't vote at all. Only 2 Democrats didn't support it. And I told you one of them was Jeff Merkley, the other is Peter Welch. It's disgusting. We aren't free. We don't live in a free country. We don't live in a democracy. And we certainly aren't, if we vote for Democrats in this election cycle, voting against fascism. Voting for Democrats in this election cycle is not a vote against fascism. Unless maybe it's Jeff Merkley or Peter Welch. And even then, have they done enough? Are they speaking out against their party, or are they just making one vote that isn't terrible? Just a kind of a layup vote, really. That's where I am. It's a layup vote. It's not a big deal. I mean, it shouldn't be. 100 billion, whatever it is, in aid, something like that. Most of it to Israel and Ukraine, most of it incredibly misguided, wrong-headed. I looked up Stein's position because I wanted to be sure. Now, I know she's good on the Israel situation because she was there. She got arrested protesting against support for Israel, demanding WashU divest. But I wanted to at least say, well, what about, where is she on Ukraine? Because I haven't seen her specific statement on it. So I found this site, and this quotes from a recent statement she made. Should the U.S. provide military assistance to defend Ukraine from Russia? No. We should stay out of conflicts that do not directly threaten us. It's that simple. Obviously, she's right. There may be, I'm willing to, I would shade it a little bit. I'm not quite as what's the word I'm looking for? Absolutist on that. There might be times I would say, for example, okay, I think we should be providing assistance to Gaza. I'm not certain. I mean, I could certainly say that what Israel's doing to Gaza does threaten us. Genocide in Gaza threatens the United States, yes. But it's kind of a stretch, right? I mean, it's kind of like, well, if any man is in chains, I'm not free, right? I mean, it's not really completely true. There's truth to it. But in the end, I can live my life without undue discomfort or unpleasantness, except emotionally, except mentally, while Israel bombs the crap out of Gaza. So what Israel's doing to Gaza probably doesn't really directly threaten us, but we should be providing military assistance to Gaza. Or at a minimum, what we should be doing is getting in between. I wouldn't necessarily provide the assistance to Gaza. I would just get in between the Israeli military. I don't call them defense forces anymore. No, it's the IDF is their title, whatever. I try not to use that because they're not defensive. They're offensive. But we should be involved in Gaza. We should be there protecting the innocent. I'm not a complete absolutist like Stein, but I'm close. And I'm glad she's against supporting more, supporting Ukraine militarily. And she's totally right on Israel as well. So she's the one we need to support. All right, I've got some more stories. Let's do this. We're spending, umpteen billions of dollars to do harm. It's not just that we'd be better off burning the money than we are giving it to Ukraine or giving weapons to Ukraine and Israel. We would be doing less harm if we just built a bonfire with the $1,000 bills. But what we should be doing with that money is addressing the real threats that the American people and the world face, which include, for sure, genocide. We should be using that money to negotiate some kind of peace settlement with Russia, of course, to try to resolve the crisis between China and Taiwan nonviolently, which I think we could do if we were resolved to do so. Instead, we're spending it on killing. But I shouldn't say the other, because there are many areas. Obviously, we need to address wealth and income inequality, poverty, homelessness. I mean, these are all terrible problems that beset us. Also, the climate catastrophe, the climate holocaust. Yesterday, 91 degrees in April in D.C. Another heat record broken. It's interesting because we've been keeping pretty accurate temperature readings for 150 years now. And the longer your records go back, the fewer records you should be breaking in any one year, in any one period of time, because the records go back farther and farther, so you've had more time. If you're keeping records that are 1 year old, the following year, if there's complete random pattern in terms of weather, you could be breaking a record every day, right? Either it's the hottest day ever recorded on this date, or it's the coldest day ever recorded on this date, right? Because if it's 50 degrees on April 1st and it's 51 the following April 1st, you just broke the record for the hottest April 1st ever. And if it's 49, you broke the record for the coldest April 1st. So after 1 year, you're going to be breaking records nearly every day. The only time you wouldn't is if the temperatures are identical, which maybe once or twice they will be. The following year, you'll still be breaking a lot of records, but maybe not. The third year, you might not break. You might have an extreme. The first year it's 40. The next day it's 60 on April 1st. You stay in the 50s, you didn't break any records. So as time goes on, you break fewer and fewer records, except that's not what we're seeing. Because of the Holocaust, the climate Holocaust, because we keep burning fossil fuels at an accelerating rate, it keeps getting hotter and hotter, and we keep breaking more and more records. When I was in Yucatan, it was over 100 degrees. Now, Yucatan is in the tropics, which means, it's between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. It's near the equator. It's going to be a lot hotter. But even there, the hotel owner told us that it's hotter than it used to be. We used to get a cool period. You used to get like a cooler season, 70s, 80s, from November till March. And now that time when it's cooler is shorter. It's more like it's December to February when it's not really hot in Yucatan, Mexico, and it's hotter then, in other words, from December to March than it used to be. That's what we're doing to our planet. And we're not spending any money on addressing that. We're only making it worse. I guess we are spending some money, right? I guess we are. But it's odd because it's money that we're spending to address a crisis that we're contributing to, that we've created and are making worse. Why don't we spend the money to stop burning the planet up rather than to try to come up with palliative measures that aren't solving the problem? I think the answer. Our energy policy is driven as much by the oil, gas, and coal industries as it is by you and me, just as our foreign policy is driven by weapons manufacturers, as much as it is, or far more than it is, by you and me. All right, and on that cheery note, I will be back tomorrow. I'm going to be, I don't know what I'm going to do in early. I guess my show will be early Friday because I've got my class, career day class, live stream or career. So I'll be doing that Friday. Tomorrow should be at noon. Have a great afternoon if you're on the East Coast, and depending on where you are, a great end of your morning as well.